Hello. Welcome to my weekly chart analysis. I'll be doing an analysis on the DXY, the dollar index, a couple of forex pairs, and I'll have a look at gold and perhaps silver and oil. So on the DXY, I always look at the DXY first, and that gives me an idea of what I want to look for on other currency pairs. So right now, we're in the month of May. In April, we saw an expansion above this inversion fair value gap on the monthly, also considered a balanced price range. A very strong close above, and now we're back in that area again. So my bias currently for the dollar index is bullish, at least to come above this high here. Um, Further into this sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency, and potentially above these highs and above those highs, although that is quite a ways away. So low hanging fruit currently, there are no other premium arrays besides this old high over here. So that's what I'll be looking for. And on the lower time frames, I'll be looking for a possible point of interest where price may reverse back to the upside. So price came down into this buy side imbalance, sell side efficiency on the monthly, um, into this larger order block as well. It came in a couple of times, one more time, expanded up, and price retraced back into it to the consequent encroachment of this wick over here. As you can see, the midpoint. Let me just highlight it. And started expanding away from there, and then breaking right through the sell side, this CB over here. So after it took out all this liquidity, it started expanding up, closing above this CB. Okay, my next target is how are we going to get to this high here? Because that is the most likely area before price does anything else, right? So we'll go down to the weekly. All right, we had a busy here on the weekly. Price came down into it, didn't do very much. Price expanded up, not breaking the high, and it came back down back into this the monthly CB, right? So now we're in this area. 1 week busy, price has closed just below it. All right, just let me have a look at the higher time frames first to see if there's any other inefficiencies. No, nothing on the 2 week, nothing on the 3 week. Okay, so let's go down to lower time frames. Okay, we have on the 5-day, we have a gap here. I have some annotations on the 3-day. This is an area. I have a busy here, which is also my R2F gap, my signature gap on the 3-day time frame, which even without a bias normally leads to a good reaction, and at the very least it usually ends up taking up the current swing, intermediate swing high, right, to the left of it, which is here. Price came up pretty close, but it did not make it. But it did create these relative equal highs, which is good for me because that builds on my narrative that and bias that the dollar wants to get stronger and go to higher prices, right? This little box here was a new day opening gap. Price came just into that and then started consolidating, and it came down all the way to here, and the week closed here, right down to the daily. Price bounce on this buy side imbalance, buy side, sell side inefficiency, 1 day, 3-day here. Did not make it to the high, and then it dropped. So at this point, I'm determining if we're going to go lower or are we going to go higher, right? So we came into this gap, quite a high probability of going higher. However, we'll go down to the lower time frames and see if there are more CBs that may bring price lower first. So we'll go down to the 12-hour. So price came into this gap here on the 12-hour and expanded lower, creating another gap. This is also somewhat considered a R2F gap on the 12-hour. But at this point, the higher time frame narrative is always stronger. So I'll be looking at some news to see how we may go higher from here. Okay, so I want to see how price reacts once it gets into this area. Is it going to come in here and then expand lower? Or is it going to possibly come into here and come back to this consequent encroachment of this weight, somewhere around there, and then start expanding higher and then higher again, right? So, at this point, I want to be patient. I don't want to be hasty to get in the move just yet. I want price to finish doing its accumulation and manipulation before I get into the market. So at this point, I'll go to the euro and see what's happening there, see if it aligns with this dollar bias of making higher highs. So the euro should make lower lows. And if you've seen my previous posts on my TradingView profile, I've been looking for a bearish dollar and a bearish euro, and I've been showing what I've been looking for. Okay, so yeah, I've had the expectation of price coming into just general zone, and go down to the lower time frames. During NFP, price shot up, and during I think PMI, in a couple of hours after NFP, price started going lower. So I managed to catch a short somewhere in that area. I wasn't at my computer at the time, but I managed to get into a short. And now I put my stop loss to break even because I'm anticipating price potentially making one more high, maybe through manipulation. Go down to the lower time frames. We have a 4-hour gap here of a wick, so price could come up to make higher highs, or it could come to this order block and make higher highs first into this area before dropping lower. So I do not want to be stopped out here and take a loss. If I'm right, great. I got into a low risk trade. And yeah, if price shows more willingness to go lower and it comes down to this area, what I'm expecting is, one more bounce back into some inefficiency that gets created somewhere, or an inversion fair value gap, and then violently displacing lower, right? Because retail thinking would be, the retail crowd would be looking at this and thinking, okay, we're getting another bounce. We've had a few bounces already, so I don't think this is going to be another big bounce. And it will soon fall off. That's something I'm anticipating and something I'm looking for, right? So if the things I'm looking for are happening, that's great. I know I'm in line with my analysis, and then I can look for a trade. Let me go to the higher time frames quickly. Yeah. So there's a SIBI here, and the weekly candle close is quite a bit above it. So that is what's leading me to think that we might make one more high. The next week could come into this weekly SIBI, use it as support, and then go higher. Or it might not break the top, but it may come pretty high and then come lower. But I have a fairly strong bias that we're going to go lower, and we're not going to go higher into here, right? Came into this yearly bearish breaker, which is the body, and this huge volume imbalance here. And there's some gaps here as well. 1 month gap, if you go to the 1 month. You can see the gap here, and 3-week, 3-week inside here as well. Actually, it's a bit bigger. Okay, 3-week gap and previous year's low and previous 3 weeks low. And I also have relative equal body lows, which is something I see as a draw on liquidity. So on the 2-month, we see a body candle close, candle open, candle close, candle open, pretty much in the same area. So to me, that is a draw on liquidity as well. I see a long wick here as well, and price may come deeper into it because it didn't go very high into it. Go to the weekly. Yeah, we may see price come higher, potentially into this area, and maybe higher. If there's very high impact news like CPI, PPI, the wicks can go a lot further than the body's close. So generally, I don't see a body close above this high. Okay, but a wick could go through. So if if what I'm anticipating is happening and it happens during a time of CPI, PPI, then I would be waiting for the move to finish before getting into a trade. Okay, so this with euro, pound dollar was a bit nicer. Okay, on the monthly, you had the gap. We also had the this monthly gap up here as well. Price came into this area, and I think price wants to go lower. The drawn liquidity is not as clear, but if we go down to the weekly, the pound dollar also had a weekly SIBI. It was more respected than the euro SIBI. However, since they're both kind of doing slightly different things, I'll be watching out for that as well. And we see this monthly gap provides support. This monthly, this is a monthly SIBI, right? No, yeah, this is a monthly BISI. Sorry, typo. Provide some sort of support. So on the 4-day, we had a gap here. Sorry, I don't know why my chart sometimes resets. Nice 4-day gap, R2F gap, and price is somewhat respecting that. So I think I'll have to wait for the next week or the week after to potentially see price finish its move, right? Because now we're in a seasonal tendency for a stronger dollar as well. So it aligns with that bias. I'm just waiting to see if what happened during NFP and PMI was the end of the manipulation. Okay, so let's go to New Zealand dollar. So this is what I have on the New Zealand dollar. Okay, let me start on the monthly. Sorry, let me delete my logo. Okay, let's start on the yearly then to just make it really clear. Okay, we have a yearly gap. I don't think price is coming into that yet. We have some of this relative equal lows here, which I see as the current drawn liquidity. I see price potentially at least taking out this one or this one, maybe this one a little bit before ever coming into this 1-year SIBI. 1-year candles is a long time, so let's not focus too much on it. We did have a 6-week gap, a 6-month gap that created the 1-year gap. Price traded into it, started expanding lower, came down, closed a bit higher, started the year with a purely bearish candle, not going above the open at all, but also creating this trend line here, which I don't anticipate being broken yet until we take out some more lows. However, anything can happen. There's some equal highs here as well. Let's go down to weekly. But let's just follow the order flow on the lower time frames. So we had a weekly gap, unicorn gap, very nice. A lot of consolidation in here. Chip chop, making traders guessing. Okay, and we open lower, and we create another CB. Price trades into it, and then expands lower. Price comes up, price comes down, takes out this low by a little bit, and then expands higher, and it kind of created these equal highs above, equal body highs at this area where this week closed. Let's go to the 2 week. Yeah, we had a 2 week R2F, which was good. And now we have relative equal lows this here, over here as well, right? Price came down, took it out a bit, but these are still relative equal lows. I'll just annotate it quickly. Okay, so let's go down to the daily. All right, many gaps here on the daily. Let me delete some so it's not too confusing for everybody. Okay, so yeah, another nice unicorn gap here. We came into it and price closed here. So price did come into this gap, which should mean lower prices, but price also closed above this busy, which is a reused fair value gap. And price may use that as support. So we may see some consolidation in this area, or maybe we'll gap down. I'm not sure. Price also created this gap here on the daily as well. So we're kind of in the middle of a bullish and bearish argument. So at this point, I'm not trying to say with certainty what price is going to do anything right now. So I'm still waiting. To see the dollar CAD. All right, so dollar CAD, we have these relative equal highs, and we have this trend line here, which I anticipate being broken. Price came down to its order block, went all the way, took out this high, came back to this gap, another order block here, and started consolidating in an upwards channel for quite a number of weeks and months, and before finally expanding up, creating these equal highs, coming back into this 1 week busy and my signature 1 day inversion fair value gap. Came into there, expanded higher, and then broke down again. It closed below my gap, which it can do and still expand higher. So at this point, I'm still in this gap here as well. However, when the week opens, we'll have another gap here, which may be used to go lower one more time. At this point, I can't say exactly where we're going to go. I'll need more information as price prints. Going to Euro GDP. All right, so you see price come into this 1 week bounce price range CB, and which is also a larger 3 week gap as well. So what I like about this is there's some relative equal lows all over this area. The Euro British pound. So I'm anticipating the Euro to get weaker against the pound. Yeah, we can see nice 2-month gap here. You can see what I mean by the wicks doing the damage during news and stuff, right? So as long as the body is respecting the gaps, the wicks can, they can extend pretty far up. So I like that it's following order flow. And we saw a nice expansion down again, consolidation, and potentially expanding down again. I think we'll take out this low. I think we'll take out this low before we ever move higher, right? So right now my focus is on this low, and then we'll see where we can go from there. Yeah, we came into this 2 months. Yeah, nothing much besides that as a target. And people look at Japanese yen. All right, yen came into this 1 week gap, and it found support at this these recent highs, right, above buy side liquidity, relative equal highs, which is also a 1 week gap in here. A busy, to be precise, busy 1 week. But it had such a large expansion down. However, it did not close below yet. So we can see a weak close below. And I may be looking for the next week after that to use that as so if I see a close, I'll be looking for a trade to go lower, although there'll be this large area up here, which price may extend more to fill in inefficiencies. Okay, on the daily, really isn't inefficiencies. We have a nice 12-hour gap here with a wick. I would call this an R2F gap, which I do like. Okay, so my visibility. All right, so price may come into here during the next week before expanding lower. And then in which most likely it'll come somewhere into this area and then expand lower from there, right? Because there's a gap here as well. Inefficiencies, imbalances that were left open. So this is a possible scenario. If it doesn't come into here and it decides just to, let's say, just start moving lower, right, into this area, then I might expect next week, if it comes into this inversion fair value gap again, to come back into this area before moving lower. So it'll be something like that, right? So these are two things I'm anticipating. I'll be waiting to see how the candles form, what news there is, what's the seasonal tendency, before I come to a conclusion whether or not my narrative is panning out, and then I can just go on a lower time frame and take a trade from there using the same ideas, right? The things I'm looking for here, I'll look for on the lower time frame, but always keeping the higher time frame in mind. That is trading with a bias. I guess we could go to gold. I don't really trade gold. Actually, I just mainly trade euro and pound, sometimes dollar CAD or Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. Rarely euro GBP because it's quite messy and I don't have too much experience. But if something's really popping out to me in price action, and I would take the trade. Okay, so this is gold. All right, let's start on the monthly, see what's up. Okay. Monthly, we're at all-time highs right now, right? So there's not much to say to the left of the chart. I can't say whether we are done on the run or not. It's impossible to say. Let's go down to weekly. Okay, price came into this weekly gap here, right? My weekly gaps are, please ignore all these things on the left. Weekly gaps are blue, came in there once. Next week candle open, came into it again. So let me look on the 2 week. All right. So this is also a 2 week gap. So it came to the 2 week gap once now. And there are more gaps over here as well, right? Let's go to daily. You can see daily respecting bearish order flow. My daily gaps are yellow. Okay, we see the 1 day coming to the gap. Nice unicorn as well. Expanding lower, taking out this low. Now we're here. Let's look at the 2 day. 2 day, same thing. 3 day, no gaps. 3 day, there's a gap down here. Okay, go to 12 hour. 12-hour gap, R2F gap here. Very nice. This is why I love my gap. And we move lower. Okay. Most of the time on these higher time frame gaps, I'll just be targeting the low. If it's a large wick, I may just target the first quadrant and leave some of the position to run, right? Or set my stop loss to break even at the very least. You see another R2F gap here. Very nice. So you can see how price goes from discount to premium. Discount, taking out this low. Premium coming to this gap. Breaking this low. Okay, so now in this doji. So I can't really say too much about that. But uh, in terms of targets, in a bearish scenario, maybe this area down here, or further into this weekly gap, or further below, right? So if I want a more of a higher time frame bias, I'll have to look at the higher time frame and wait for the higher time frames to form. Okay, so that's how it works. 3 week, 3 week now, 2 week, yeah, 2 week into this gap, but we may come a little bit deeper and we may come to this area. If you look at the 2 month, 3 months, 4 months, yeah, we're just quite high up. Nothing much to say about that. You can see the yearly gap down here, price coming into that, then expanding higher. Very nice. For a total of 46%. Wonderful. All right, let's gold. Can have a look at oil. Oil futures. Sorry, it's a bit messy. This is my own chart, and I just have it the way I have it, right? It's not the most presentable. So what I was anticipating is, price breaking up, finding support at this CB. It did break up as planned, and now it's here as planned. So I'm just waiting to see if we move higher, right? So this is my POI on the monthly, because there's equal highs here and this yearly gap, and price did such an expansion. I think we'll come into this area, possibly. It's such a huge range. So now I'll go down to lower time frame and see if there's positive gaps for me. So no, not the moment. This week close engulfing bearish candle. I had a POI here, which is my 1 month gap along this inversion fair value gap. So this is one POI for a potential long. I did not set a stop limit here. This is not where stops should be or where my limit orders are. It's just to indicate where I would want to take a trade. And normally I'd go down to a lower time frame. If my POI is on the monthly, I'll frame a trade on the weekly or the daily, 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, whatever. And I'll try and find liquidity, engineer liquidity or gaps there. So one of my models is inversion fair value gap here, or a R2F setup. I don't know where that is, 1 month. Yeah, I guess on this 5-day there's a R2F here, but it broke lower and came up into it and then started expanding lower. So I also have another setup here, which is my megaphone setup, which is this broadening wedge along with an order block, price breaking down, coming into it, and then expanding up. Okay, so these are my models, but I still look for confirmation since they are on such high time frames, right? I would like to catch a better RR. Okay, on the daily, we see some CBs being created. The inversion fair value gap over here. It's also on the daily, right? So we did come also into the daily inversion, and now we're here. So at this point, we'll see what happens. Price may come down into this order block, take out some lows, possibly come up again, use this as resistance. Support and resistance traders are happy. Breaks down here, does whatever, and then expands up. That's one scenario that I'm looking for. Okay, because this POI does not look like it's holding. So now I'm gonna have to wait for this POI and see how price forms there. Let's see if we can look for anything else. How about, okay, we can look for Bitcoin, right? Yeah, Bitcoin is a tricky one, crypto. There's a lot of on-chain metrics and fundamentals to it, and it's a very weird asset. So I had one POI for a potential short, which is this 4-day breaker. It's not so reliable because it's so far away in this price action, but it was an area of interest I was looking at. So we see price use this 4-day gap and then expands lower and it takes out the swing low. So that's my first target. It's always the first target. I don't aim too low because price can reverse. Taking out the low is a significantly higher probability than some other random target that is miles away. Okay, so this position this POI does not look like it may hold because price is also in this monthly fair value gap. All right, on the monthly, where am I aiming? The swing high. Okay, at this point, yeah, we'll have to see what happens. There is a gap, but Bitcoin took out a major area of liquidity, expanded lower. So we may see lower prices first if we were going to go higher. For Bitcoin, I don't know. I don't know the future. We can look on the weekly. Nice candle here. No inefficiencies here, so most likely the target would be higher. Yeah. The daily we're here, 12-hour, 4-hour. Okay. It may start just expanding higher from here, or it may come down into that area, this gap here, and use this general area again as support to move higher. There's some relative equal highs here. It's good liquidity. Inefficiencies here, relative equal highs here as well. So we could see higher prices. We do have more inefficiencies here as well. So yeah, it remains to be seen. We do see a strong reaction, but price could always come lower. I see a nice breaker here. Price could also come down to this area before moving higher if it was going to go higher, right? All right, that's it for that. In the future, I'll do analysis for the indices futures like the E-mini, S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow Jones. All right, if you have any requests for any assets or markets you want me to take a look at, feel free to send it over. Just give a comment, and I'll be glad to check it out. All right, that's all for now. Let's see what we get the next week. All right, happy trading, guys.